random junk from the archives.
Oh, what a video!
That was, of course,
Fantastic.
Sir Paul McCartney with his latest single, No Other Baby. Do you know what? Here he is in the shed! Paul, first question I have to ask you. The nation waits with bated breath.
Yes, Johnny?
Do you have a shed?
I have a little shed, yes.
Do you have a shed? Just a place you go to escape from...
A woodworking shed, yes. A little where I whittle and plane. And...
you're a whittler.
I'm a whittler, yeah.
And you go there to compose songs?
No.
Where do you do that?
To decompose.
To decompose
Yes.
songs?
I just go for the same reason people go, to get away from everything, you know, and sand a bit of wood.
Okay, where'd you go? Where'd you go to actually when you're writing songs? Where's your songwriting place?
I've got a little room in the house with a piano in it and a guitar.
See, I put it to you, that is a shed.
It is a type of shed.
Do you see what I mean? The metaphorical shed. Do you see what I mean, Gary?
This is
Do you see what I mean, though?
Do you think he's a little bit too hung up on sheds, viewers?
I don't know. Is it a sickness? I don't know.
It could be, Johnny.
We saw your latest single, No Other Baby, there.
Yeah.
You couldn't find a copy of the track
No.
itself. Tell us the
Originally.
story. Yeah, tell us the story of this track.
I was going to make this rock and roll album, so I just thought of some songs that were from way, way, way back, and I just remembered this one. I never had the record till after I'd made the album, and then EMI very kindly gave me the record. I looked and I thought, I recognise that, but it took me back about, 70 years or something.
Okay, so have you been going through, I mean, on the album, there's a... Do you know what, I'll talk about that after the break, actually, because we're going to really get into the substance of that and the records on it.
Let's do
It looked like you had a night just going through your record collection for your favourites and thought, that, and that.
Well, my memory rather than my record collection, yeah. Just
The jukebox of the mind.
of the mind. The shed of the jukebox.
The shed of the...
Yeah.
It's a sort of jukebox inside a shed inside your mind.
Yeah, it really is, I suppose.
It's a beautiful thing. Do you know what? After the break, it's the paper review. Sir Paul will be with me for the rest of the show, ladies and gentlemen. Don't do that. McCartney.
It's fabulous.
Don't let me down. I'll bring you on telly for the first time. Sorry, Sir Paul.
That's more like it.
I'll bring a Knight of the Realm on the show. First time he's been out for ages.
In his
Look what
shed.
you do.
Yeah, but it's the shedness of it all.
Well, the house, that'll follow. It's his big breakfast. Join us after the break, please. See you soon. He's written some of the most memorable songs in history. Oh. And it's not often we can say that on the show, is it?
No, not really.
Normally we have S Club 7 on. And after 2.5 years away from the recording studio, he's back with a critically acclaimed new rock and roll album. Please welcome the man, the legend, Sir Paul McCartney. Whoa! Fantastic video.
Well,
very,
thank
very
you.
simple.
Still, simple, meaningful.
What was the thinking behind doing it? Why did you decide to do it like that?
The director said he had an idea. And I thought, me in a rowboat? Not sure about that.
No.
So I met him, and he was very convincing. Pedro Romani, he just said, and I heard him talk. I thought, right, ring in the end of the nose, lead me around.
Did you get wet?
A little bit. A little bit. But, I'm a rough, tough cream puff, John.
Yeah.
I can handle it.
You're rough, you're tough. Now, your latest album features... Actually, I'll tell you one thing I wouldn't have done if I was you on that video. There's one bit where you got bare feet. Now, you know the trouble you got in last time. And you did bare feet on the Abbey Road. You don't take your shoes off. The maniacs go mad.
I know, the Americans think I'm dead again.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I am.
There we go. Or maybe this is all part of
You
it.
never know.
We actually filmed this in 1998.
Yeah.
OK, now, your latest album, it does feature 12 cover tracks from artists including Elvis, Chuck Berry, Little Richard. What made you decide to return to your early musical influences?
It's just the kind of thing, I always wanted to do. It's one of those, I'll make a rock and roll album one of these days, And finally got round to it. It's really simple as that, actually. Lynn and I had been talking about it the last couple of years, and she'd always been saying, you've got to do that, you've got to get round to it. It's one of those things, you say, yeah, I'll always do and never get round to it. So I decided I better get round to it. So I did this year.
And have all these songs got a particular sort of happy memory attached to them? Or...
Yeah, that's how I chose them, actually. Instead of kind of looking for, like, the classic, definitive...
Because they're not all they weren't all massive records at the time.
No, a lot of them aren't. A lot of them no one's even heard of. Even in the band, I'd say to some of the guys, you've heard of this one? No. And they pretty much know a lot of them, But that was how I chose them. I just sort of thought, either I'll go into the record books and look for the best-selling or the best crafted, or I'll just think, what's a song? And I immediately remembered being on the fairground with my mate Ian James in Sefton Park, trying to pull birds, and the waltzer going round, and this song playing called Fabulous. So I just wrote down, all right, Fabulous. And then next one, No Other Baby. Just remember. So it was just whatever came into my mind. I thought, if I've got kind of a warm memory about it, then when I come to sing it, I'll use that. So I did. Just pulled them out and thought, ooh, I'm back in the fairground. Ooh, ooh, you know, and
did you ever sort of jam any of these when you were John? Did you? Were these the ones you played as lads?
Yeah, there were one or two. Brown-Eyed Handsome Man
Classic.
was one that he nearly did with the Beatles, but we never got round to it. But,
have you seen the film Backbeat, incidentally?
Yeah.
Because it's quite weird, because in that film, it reminded me that you started out, you know, with the Beatles as just a band playing covers.
Yeah.
In the club in Hamburg. Were these some of the ones were there any here you played as part of the
These are probably the ones we never got round to, but we played this kind of thing. The reason was that if you were playing on a bill, and maybe 3 or 4 bands, if you went on about 3rd or 4th, the other 2 bands that went on before you often played your whole act. You know, you'd be sitting here one, and I say, Long Tall Sally, oh my God, what are we going to do? So we started to think, well, we've got to look for obscure tracks or start writing songs ourselves.
Who hit on the genius idea? I know. Let's write some songs.
Let's write them ourselves. I think I was the.
Was it your idea?
I think so.
I take credit.
I like to
of course,
think.
it was my idea to stop doing covers.
My idea. I don't know. In truth, it was just something we had to kind of do. But it's nice to think that the big sort of Lennon-McCartney big deal thing only arrived really to foil the other bands.
And which was the first song you actually you wrote then, either with Lennon or?
The first one really. Well, we wrote a few. There was
the first one you can think of.
First one you can think of. It's never been released. It's called Just Fun. They say that our friends are just fun. The day that our friends will be gone. There's no blue moon that I can see. There's never been in history. We went,
sample it, release it. Christmas #1. We're away, we're laughing, we've got that. It's all the lyrics we need for a song.
That's all you need, man, yeah. No.
Nice strong beat under that and we'll be fine. OK. Now, this is the first time you stepped back into the limelight since Linda died. How difficult have the last 18 months been, and what's been your sort of story during that time?
It's been, really difficult, actually, because, I was privileged to know this lovely lady for 30 years, and we had a great relationship, a great time, raised our kids and stuff. And I suppose, like anyone, you expect to still be sort of at 80 just on the rocker on the back porch, but it wasn't to be. So it was very, very difficult, yeah. And people said to me, get busy, anything, don't just sit on your own. But I thought, no, that's kind of too much like denying the whole thing.
So what did you find is the best kind of therapy, or not therapy, but the best way of dealing
Well,
with it?
even though I'm a tough, macho man, crying. If you can't help it. You just sort of sit, depends who you're sitting with, of course, but if I was with the kids or good friends, I just start talking and think, I'm going to cry now. Instead of going, don't, just go, where? And start talking to them, just talking and letting it out, really. And that's what I did for about a year, and I thought, hope this will end at some point. I think I gradually did kind of get most of it out,
So for a while, was it sort of bad when people sort of avoid the topic, and by avoiding it, they always bring it up just as badly?
Yeah, so I'd bring it up. Yeah. I just was like, what you want to talk to me about, is that, isn't it?
It's always one of those difficult things, when if I have a friend and they lose someone close to them,
yeah.
I never know. I think he assumes we find it really difficult to know. We want to help them so much, we don't know how to. What sort of help did you get, and what is the best way we can help people?
Well, I think talking about it was the thing, really, and not denying it, not pretending it hadn't happened, because that's worse. You're sitting there thinking, he or she knows, I know, but we're talking about sheds or something,
Yeah. Subject crops up in every dead silence.
Sheds, yeah.
Yeah, sheds.
Yeah.
Well, the sheds.
No, but so I think just being honest was the thing, and just talking about it. So, like I say, after about a year of that, I did start to feel a bit better, Just start to write. I'll get round to that rock and roll album now. Go and shout a bit in the studio.
Rock therapy.
Rock therapy, man.
Okay. Strength through rock.
Hey.
Now that you've gone back into the recording studio, can you see yourself now concentrating on music for a while? Is that now back in there? That's it, no more absences?
Yeah, I think so, I never know that I'm going to be absent, so I just take it by, I play it by ear, if I don't fancy it, I won't go out, kind of thing. But
what kind of sort of drives you now? Obviously you can see what drives people early on in their careers. You can see what drives people with money, and then you can see people being driven by sort of music later on. Like I want to prove I can. It wasn't just about money. But what sort of drives you now?
It's not so much proving it, because I think in many ways I've proved it. Being in the Beatles.
I think it's safe to say you.
I think
Does anyone here question Paul McCartney's musical credentials?
But so it's not so much that. I'll tell you what it is. It's just I love it. As simple as that, you know.
And which bit do you love? Do you love the composition? Do you love working things out? Do you love recording? Do you love playing live? What's the?
I love them all.
Just love the lot.
Yeah, I love them all. I mean, I always love the idea. You suddenly, like, what'll happen with me is I'll suddenly have a couple of hours when I'm doing nothing. I mean, I was in New York recently and I was staying in this big posh hotel with this plate glass window with a big view of Central Park. And of course, this suite came with a piano.
Nice.
So I think a couple of
Exactly like the
hours
hotel
off.
rooms I get.
This is but I think, you know, it's like Cole Porter time or sort of Huggy Comer. So I just sort of sit down and you know, if I'm lucky, a song will come. But it's kind of like magic for me still.
Here's another big hit.
You know.
Oh, yes. So it's not like.
But no, you know. So I just actually like this latest time I'm telling you about in about an hour, I just kind of finished this song up, just wrote the words down. Thought, hey, that's great. Call a few of the mates in. Hey, listen to this. Hey, hey.
Well, they all come in and go,
Calm down.
Paul, okay. Do you know what? We can come back in a while and you can have a chance to
About
reflect.
a week or so.
In about a week. We'll
or
come
so.
back in a week. We'll wait in the shed for a week.
Yeah.
So
we could find things to do.
We could leaf through my gardening, Max.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Do you know what? Sir Paul McCartney's joining us all morning in the shed. The shed is honoured. We're back in a couple of seconds. Please do not go away. You're watching The Big Breakfast on Channel 4.